Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. I'm so happy that you're able to join us for a very special opportunity to learn from a very special guest. And before I turn things over to get things underway, just a couple of things in the platform. You can see there's a question and answer module just next to me here. And we encourage you to drop your questions there throughout the presentation. We will do our best to get back to those at the very end. I'll be in the background watching those come through and kind of compiling those questions for our panelists here at the very end. So please do take advantage of that. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Bloomfire's very own Jason Pafford. Take it away, Jason.
Thanks so much, David. Welcome, everybody, to our webinar today. We are super thrilled to have Jordan Esker, the Manager of Product Knowledge and Adoption at Jackson Hewitt, joining us. So throughout the event, as David said, feel free to ask your questions right here in the On24 platform. We'll answer some of those questions from the audience in the last 10 minutes of the event. Jordan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Jordan Esker, and I've been working in KM, knowledge management, for about 11 years. So at Jackson Hewitt, basically in charge of managing our internal knowledge base and our two chatbots. So we have one that communicates internally, like to our tax offices here at Jackson Hewitt, and then the other one communicates externally to our potential or existing clients on jacksonhewitt.com.
That is awesome. So can you tell us a little bit more about your role in depth at Jackson Hewitt and kind of what your day-to-day looks like?
Yeah, sure. So I started with the company in 2018 as a knowledge specialist. I started taking more ownership of AskJH as that was going along. I was offered the position to manage the platform and later also manage the chatbots. Now, in general, I manage communications to our offices and like procedural or company-specific content. And I'm always sort of problem solving to improve the workflow of the system. So lately I've been doing more analysis of our usage using KNIME, which is a software I can talk about a little bit more later. But we've been pulling data through Bloomfire's data API. I've been working a lot with Bloomfire to kind of get some advanced capabilities and more reporting via the API. And then I also use Excel pivot tables to sort of present that data differently depending on what we're trying to show. And I've also recently been leveraging a lot of automation and a little bit of AI to help others on my team just work on some automation and kind of improve some tasks that we need to do to get some things sped along.
Pivot tables are a mystery to me always, so I'm going to have to schedule some time with you later to cover pivot tables and share your knowledge there. But and we definitely want to revisit that analytics and some of the things that you've learned. But before we head into that, onboarding thousands of employees each year is got to be intense. So how do you make sure that your tax preparers have the right tools with so many changes going into every single season and so many new folks every season?
Sure, yeah. So I'll say AskJH a lot. That's our Bloomfire website. That's what we call our Bloomfire instance. It's AskJH. So we keep a very simple landing page that we call the Preparers Place at the very top of our homepage on AskJH. We have a link directly to it. So it's one of our most viewed articles. No, our tax preparers are really using it because I see it's far and above, usage compared to anything else on the website. And that's totally fine with us because it really encompasses everything they need to know on a given day or week. And it's one of our most viewed things, but it also gets updated weekly, and we make sure it's never too long. So it really provides them everything they need, and they're not having to spend all this time sifting through AskJH to find everything that they need to know about. We also use a banner on the homepage just below that icon section. So we have a bunch of icons we link to, and then we use the banner, which is a feature that's a widget on the Bloomfire homepage setup. And that'll kind of point to some of the most important items for that week in the company, not just for tax preparers, but for anybody. And then on the learning side, we have a learning team who controls kind of all of our learning content and our training. And we use an internal database that assigns the roles to everybody to ensure that everybody's seeing the right content. And these roles are corresponding to like specific learning plan. that populates for the appropriate learning for that role. And also it reflects the tenure of the tax pro. So whether they're new or they've been here 5 years or longer, they're going to all get different learning plans based on their tenure and then their role. And these are hosted on our learning management system.
Nice. So that's a lot of different tools that you're providing for everybody. So what criteria do you use to pick the best tools for your tax preparers?
Yeah, so we have tax preparers in office. Imagine they're always sitting in front of a client and they are going between usually Ask JH, but then also our tax filing software. And then of course you have the factor of them sitting in front of them. So you have a lot of kind of swiveling between focuses. We want to give them something that is very straightforward and very simple, and is also very visual. That's because their attention's so divided. So this is why Bloomfire has kind of always been a good asset to answer that. Is it's a very quick and very visually based tool, and it's very it enables us, I guess, to publish things quickly and get their attention.
So I know years ago I worked in tax prep too. Every year there are new laws and new regulations and new things that we need to consider as tax preparers. So how do you introduce new information to your experienced tax preparers every year when things change?
Yeah, definitely. We have, like I mentioned earlier, the learning plans. We have a specific one depending on your tenure. So we include that information in their learning plan for the returning ones. And there's a specific learning plan for them. So things will be worded differently. Basically, we'll say, hey, by the way, since you've been gone over the past year, these things have changed with tax law. So pay attention to this. And we'll kind of spend more time catching them up rather than, bringing them up to speed in general with tax law.
With every piece. Nice. So of all the tools that are out there, what made you decide to make Bloomfire kind of the central hub for information at Jackson Hewitt?
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, really the quick and visual nature of it has always been, very it's been a good fit, I guess, for our situation. Not only, how quickly you're able to get through things based on the visual aspect, but also the publishing side. So we're able to get things published immediately once you hit publish. I know it sounds weird, but I've worked on other platforms, other knowledge management platforms, where you hit publish and you may have to wait for a publish cycle to go through. You may have to wait for the site to publish. You may have other dependencies. If something happens to that site, you may be waiting on a technology department to, fix it or get it back online. So the speed at which we're able to get things published, the stability has just kind of always been second to none. And I've also had to train a lot of writers who aren't really trained writers, but maybe let's say it's someone in technology putting out a release note. I'm really able to get them onboarded to posting those very quickly because it's a very intuitive, straightforward editor, very similar to Word. So I just use a template, basically, provide them that and give them the right access. And I'd say people have had issues maybe, 15% of the time, but I'm usually able to fix that pretty quickly. This enables me to get like a diversity of voices. So in Bloomfire, if you've seen, you have the person's face. Usually if they've uploaded the profile image, you have that on the feed. And there was a time where it kind of was just my face over and over, which isn't really saying much. I think that's kind of, you don't want to miss that opportunity to show people like, hey, this is that person, from corporate who knows everything about this thing that the article's about. And I've kind of seen some value delivered in the comments and some of the feedback that I've got from people that they really appreciate seeing that content directly from that subject matter expert.
Absolutely. I was in the same boat when I managed our platform too. And so we ended up creating a persona, Penelope the Purple Cow, that would share some engaging things with our teams in the contact center. So anything to do a variety of voices and get people engaged in the platform. So,
Right.
overall, like all these tools and this approach to things, how has it improved your onboarding process for your new hires?
Yeah, I think in addition to kind of everything I said earlier with the speed at which you can get things done, and also I didn't mention, but just get it formatted properly. I'm able to always go in and quickly edit things and then update them whenever I see someone's kind of, thrown something up and it hasn't done a very good job. But also the time-sensitive nature of posting things on the homepage has been really important, and I can kind of go into that a little more. We are trying to put things on the homepage that are relevant right now, so that when someone logs in, they're faced with a bunch of things that are, important right now, and not kind of just a bunch of things that maybe, oh, I'll worry about that in December or whatever. So yeah, really, again, hitting on that whole speed aspect, but then also relevance.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're distributing a ton of information all the time throughout the year in different cycles. So how do you segment and organize that information within Ask JH?
Yep. So we've got groups. Everybody has Bloomfire groups, but we use them to divide up content amongst, special departments or maybe levels within our field offices. So for example, we have some offices that are corporate owned, and then we have some offices that are franchise owned. And actually legally, we can only talk a certain way to the corporate owned offices versus how we can talk to the franchise owned offices. So we'll only publish certain content that's relevant and that's written in a certain way that complies within one of those groups, who we're talking to. So recently I was actually also able to obtain a report from our data team that gets the exact access that every single person should have based on our internal database that we have, which is separate from Bloomfire. And then use the software that I mentioned earlier, 9, which is kind of just something that enables you to manipulate the data, and then provide a CSV to Bloomfire so that users always have the access to the groups they should have. So this guarantees that, let's say, someone who's the manager at an office has the appropriate access so that they're going to see communications that are limited just to, let's say, managers at corporate-owned offices. And then we can guarantee everyone has, information that they should be seeing, and the people who shouldn't be seeing it are not seeing it.
Perfect. So it sounds like that there's so much information that we need to keep in front of folks all the time. How do you leverage Bloomfire for training and notifications and then those updates to folks?
Definitely. We have something that new that we want to announce. Every time that happens, there's kind of a culture that we've fortunately already had from an earlier system called about daily announcements. So everyone knows that our daily announcements are the things you need to look at every day. And you need to hopefully log in, and that's the first thing that you read whenever you're going to start your day. And so when the feeds came about in Bloomfire, I think it was maybe 2021 or something like that the feeds came about, and then they were provided as as something on the homepage, which was honestly, it was a huge development for us. Another one of the simple things I think Bloomfire has done that has made a big difference is allowing us to put those feeds straight on the homepage. That was around the time that we were considering moving information from an internal database that was kind of just wasn't very well organized. And that really was something that was enabling us to move it over. So yeah, attention to those. And we also have things called known issues and critical alerts that we also have right on the homepage via a feed. And that enables us to just keep people, up to date as much as possible. Also, I mentioned earlier, and I'll just call it out again here, we do have items on the homepage that we're constantly updating depending on the time of season. Fortunately, we're a pretty cyclical business, so we have a decent expectation of what we're going to be talking about at what time of the year, and that enables us to be well prepared to link to certain assets that we have at certain times.
Awesome. And there are two things I had to say. One, kudos on the culture. Creating that culture around daily news and that habit is not easy. So congrats on that. But speaking of the homepage overall, you're known internally at Bloomfire for your extensive use of custom widgets on your homepage for Bloomfire. So tell me more about what's behind that.
Yeah, so I think that really kind of came about over time, like I said, with the feeds. That was sort of like an aha moment. But then we were looking to kind of revamp the homepage last year. And I'm always staying aware of the different improvements that Bloomfire is putting out. And also dually staying aware of all the issues that's going on in the company, all the rumblings of, what is it about our knowledge management system is not being used, or it's not like getting the message across. Why aren't people looking at content? Helps to stay aware of that and then kind of link the two together and say, what can I do with what I have? So yeah, it's one of the main issues we're always trying to address is, something that's not new for anyone who works in knowledge management is people not being able to find the things they need. I can't find what I need. Look, I think it's there, but maybe I didn't use the right words or something like that. So again, I guess I'll call out again, but I'll go in a little more depth about what's being posted on the homepage. So our operations team, who's kind of representing our field offices, they're often stressing how we have to provide direction to the field. So not just information. We're not just saying, hey, here's how you do this thing. We're also saying, like, here's how you do it, and here's, some additional information, like what you should do when you do it, or, at what time of season you should be doing it, things like that. So it's slowly morphed into what it is now, kind of to address that. I was trying to also provide a different way other than search to find content. Previously, we were just, giving a feed for everything that was updated recently or, posted recently. However, I didn't really have a way, and the feeds are, kind of determined just by what a feed is. But I wanted to manually place things, and I wanted to put more than just, let's say, a feed that was a series. I wanted to have, let's say, 5 links, like, 15 links right here, and have it not take up too much space. So I kind of just did some basic HTML and CSS. I sort of knew those already from a previous role. So I was able to figure out what worked with the HTML block that Bloomfire provides. And just did like kind of some basic iconography. And that was also something I was able to kind of change out depending on the time of season. And I think that helped a lot. It seemed like it really helped people view particular pieces of content, because I saw our most viewed content was very linked with, very related to what we had posted directly on the homepage. So kind of correlate there, that definitely made a difference.
Nice. How do you decide what is going to go on the homepage versus what's going to go in a different section?
Yeah. I mentioned earlier about us being very cyclical. So, we know pretty much we're going to need to talk about at any given time of the year. So when things come up, because of the flexibility of Bloomfire, I can add them to the homepage pretty quickly. And we have a lot of content also that isn't really timely. For example, like how to fill out a particular tax form in our tax filing software. Sure, it's relevant during the length of tax season, and maybe it's good to read even off season, but maybe not something we feature on the homepage. But, we leave that to search as well. We're very aware that people use search quite a bit. We're always trying to train on how they can better use search. So I suppose it's really, how we're deciding what goes on the homepage, and, what we want to have as like a linked section or something like that. It's really like a time-based decision. So really like being aware of what's going on at the time in the business, staying connected to the business is absolutely like crucial to, making sure that our knowledge base is relevant. I'm always aware of like what it looks like if you logged in, and let's say everybody in your office is talking about hiring right now, but like you go into our platform and there's nothing about hiring. And it's like, well, this isn't very timely. This isn't very relevant. Like this website is, not really going to give me anything. And they may project that into the future too and say like, oh, well, I'm not going to check back in, November when we're talking about something else because it didn't really show me what I needed now. So you really have to think of it as like a, I don't know, as something that's like calendar based in a way. So yeah.
So looking at least for me in the training world of in a cyclical business before I joined the Bloomfire team, of how do you, after the end of a season, how do you take a look at what worked and what didn't after each busy tax season ahead of the next one?
Yeah, so I actually started a brand new process that I haven't gone through a whole season with yet. But basically, using the API connections I mentioned earlier that Bloomfire provides, I'm able to pull down some data on every single user. And then I can correlate that data to what we call a processing center. So every person is within a processing center. And then every region that the processing center is within, I can also look at. So just very quickly, the structure of our field is office, and then every office is within or a processing center. So processing center will have multiple offices, and every region has multiple processing centers. That's a quick little family tree. But yeah, that's enabled me to connect with our regional leaders who each have their own region and provide them information about the usage on AskJH that's particular to that region. And previously, kind of just using the analytics that I see within Bloomfire doesn't really enable me to look at it in that level. So that's kind of been a big advancement to be able to show people just what's relevant to them at that level, and then kind of get them on my side and say, hey, I want to provide this to you, and I hope this helps you like understand what's going on and how your people are using our platform. And then I also compare that to their support center context, which I pull in from our Zendesk, and then kind of show it back to back, so I can show them what contacts have come out of their region to support what the subject of that contact was, and then it can even filter on the Bloomfire content and say like, oh, people are viewing stuff based on this category, and kind of compare the two and say like, are these people in your region actually looking at the relevant content in AskJH that they're putting in support tickets about? And that kind of provides me an indicator too, like, are our articles actually answering questions? If those numbers are pretty similar, especially across the span of a week, then probably not. But if there's a big disconnect where there's way more support tickets and there's really no AskJH articles on that category, then I maybe that's on the regional directors to kind of give a little push. So yeah, that's just a little bit of the extra analysis that we're going to be doing this year. Hope to make a difference.
I can't wait to hear more about that, because I think having that granularity all the way down to the office level and being able to target very specifically with change or communication that's needed, I think that's going to be awesome. So we'll have to check back in with you to see how it goes after a full season all the way around.
Yeah, definitely.
So thus far, with what you've been doing, what kind of insights have you gained regarding your onboarding processes at AskJH when you're hiring all of these people multiple times each season? So.
Sure. Yeah, just so being able to see a big target that we're looking at, kind of something that's popped up from all this, is somewhere around 35 to 40% of our total users hadn't logged in this past season. So it's kind of a big indicator that I've led all my meetings with our regional directors about, is, that's a big metric we have to work with. It may not be very surprising considering, the size of the company and everyone, and maybe a little bit of that is due to some excess accounts that we had, but I think it's really not far off. So that's kind of been, a huge target that we're looking at now. We've grown a ton of usage year over year. That being said, so we've had more and more people every year use, and we've really come a long way. But seeing that number, I think, empowers everyone to realize, we have a lot to do in the onboarding process with calling out, what is this tool? How can I use it while I'm training, instead of, maybe just talking about it during training and then leaving them to maybe use it later. So we really want to incorporate it more during training if possible, so that we can, get people used to using it, because really it is an on-the-job tool, and it's not something that really they should kind of look at once and then come back to later.
Absolutely. Building that engagement right from the get-go, I think, is so key. I know when I was at Orvis, it was the same thing. We leveraged Bloomfire straight from the get-go in new hire training. And that became one of the most popular resources in our surveys afterwards. They were so thankful that they had Bloomfire to help them answer questions and find things as they needed it on their first couple of months out on the floor. So you're a data guy, which I admire. As you're digging into that, what kind of new questions have come about that you're going to use to further improve the program and further improve Ask JH?
Yeah, so I was talking earlier about comparing with support tickets, and there's definitely a mismatch between the topics, other than the most common support tickets and the most commonly viewed Ask JH articles. And by that I mean, so our regional directors are a big link between the messaging and the help that corporate provides to the field. And my hope is this season that, giving them that report, not only to them, but also to our operations team and actually a lot of other impactful people in the company, we'll be able to more quickly jump on some of the information disconnects that are occurring in the field, and take a proactive approach in promoting the content that people aren't seeing. So hopefully that'll kind of, by doing a little bit of that nudging, we'll be able to get people to self-serve more often. Just noticing a lot of those, kind of that example I talked about earlier, where it was, hey, we see a lot of these support tickets, but not a lot of views in this category. So yeah, I think doing a little bit of more manual pushing on those indicators, and now we give regional directors some empowerment by providing some data that they can speak to. So it's not just me saying hey guys, I see this, and they say, oh, I don't know, why should I believe you? So yeah.
Always good to have the data to back it up. So
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to do a part 2 or loop back a communication, let everybody know how the report went and what kind of actions took place outside of that. So we've covered a lot of ground. So out of all of this, what do you think are some key takeaways that you'd want to highlight from what we've talked about today?
Yeah, I mean, just speaking to Bloomfire, I think the platform has given us all of the infrastructure we need to communicate what we need to in the field. A lot of feedback that we've gotten kind of about people trying to find content is, when they find it, it does answer their question. Just sometimes they struggle finding it. So while we have a little ways to go to kind of increase our utilization, I think we're there. The structure is there, and it can meet the needs of our users. We just have to kind of figure out how to do a little bit more promotion and get more adoption.
Absolutely. So what's kind of looking into the future, what are you planning for onboarding at Jackson Hewitt in the future?
Yeah, we're going to trim down our homepage probably a little bit. I think we tried to do a lot last year, and now we're kind of reeling back in from that. So trying to establish our timelines again for season. But then also potentially we're implementing Ask AI, which, if you've heard me this whole time kind of talk about, one of the key issues is people can't find the answer to the specific question they're asking. That's what Ask AI does. It responds to questions. So we're really excited about that. If we can get that going, I think it'll make a monumental difference. And I think people will probably warm up to it pretty quickly, because it is very straightforward and it's in a good spot right next to the search. So, we'll be making training videos once we get everything solidified, and giving that to our field and our training team, and hopefully get a a big change in people's, perceptions as kind of like, we're moving into the future, and it's not that scary.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most exciting things about Ask AI is not just how it helps existing folks take care of customers in that engaging way and much more easily interact when you're looking at a screen and looking at a human at the same time.
Yeah.
But also how it helps with that onboarding process and how much more quickly folks may be able to get up to speed because they've got that great tool. So definitely excited to hear about that. And I know we love partnering with you all. How do you see our partnership of Jackson Hewitt and Bloomfire evolving in the future as well?
Yeah, you guys have always been really good at, seeing things from our perspective. So I think you have your head in the right place with all the improvements you've made. It's something that we've noticed just over the years. Maybe we'll put in a feature request, and I think it gets taken seriously. I'm always trying to be careful about which feature requests I put in and make sure. Sometimes I'll type an email and I'll think like, actually, wait, no, I think I have an answer for this. So I'm always kind of careful about what I send in, but you guys still always take it very seriously. And I think your updates you make take a very balanced approach. It's easy to kind of be, I don't know, flashy or kind of make a frivolous update. And I'm sure you guys make a lot of back end updates, but like a lot of all the front end stuff that we've seen has been very, purposeful, I think, and that we've really been able to use the vast majority of it. And I feel like I always come away from those meetings where you show us new stuff and we're like, yes, that's great. I'm like happy that's coming. So yeah, I mean, I see it, developing, and I think you guys have your heads in the right place. And, we appreciate that because the structure of our company is, I think a bit unique. Some of the problems we brought to you guys, you haven't seen maybe in other companies because maybe they're corporate only. We have a lot of different levels and different people we're trying to speak to. So, yeah, I think, I definitely see us continuing to have Bloomfire as a home base for, how we do communications.
Awesome. So much fun to hang out with you. And I really appreciate you sharing all your insights and your data experience. And we're going to have to loop back on data again. So for everybody watching, also want to tell you, don't forget to check out Jordan's band, Jordan Esker and the 100%. My favorite song is Platitudes, which when I chatted with Jordan was a bit of an older song. So at least I dug into the catalog, but they do have a new album out. So check that out on Spotify when you get a chance. And I'll turn it over to David for any questions that have come in.
Thanks, Jason, and thanks, Jordan. What a bunch of great insights there, and what you're doing with Jackson Hewitt. So great to see. And maybe next time we'll have a little intro song from Jordan, but we'll save that for next time.
Okay.
So Jordan, one question for you that came in, kind of security and compliance focused. So the question is, how do you ensure compliance when segmenting content between corporate-owned and franchise-owned offices?
Definitely. I mean, we have a pretty limited base of people who can freely publish. So basically moderator and above. And the majority of those people are actually just publishing a specific type of communication. Now, I always stay aware as well with my email notifications, really, of everything that gets published, just to kind of, quickly check it when it comes through. We've never really had an issue, honestly, because everybody that gets permission to publish is, they're publishing under their own name, and they're also the correct people to be publishing those assets, actually. So they're kind of the most reliable. They're the SMEs when it comes to whatever they're posting about. So I suppose maybe being a bit of a smaller company, we're at an advantage there. But yeah, there's always content moderation, of course, making people authors if you really need to. And then, relying on your content managers to properly moderate that content.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And this last question, I think this is the last one we have time for.
Sure.
Sort of related to that, but definitely related to content. So the question came in, how do you encourage engagement and utilization of the knowledge base amongst your tax preparers?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, that's honestly always a hard one. I think getting people excited about something. We had a contest going on in December that we had people send pictures in because it was kind of based on our Walmart stores, and we wanted people to show us their Walmart stores. So they actually became. We got to figure out the process next year. Became a bit of a bear to me to manage all the videos and pictures that came in. But we had them email in videos and pictures of their setups, and we posted hundreds of those on our site, and that got a ton of views too. So nice. I think I don't know, getting people to have some ownership and kind of feel like they're a part of something, but then also like having new exciting features. I really think Ask AI could make a huge difference for people feeling more confident about getting answers and it really being like tangibly helpful. So yeah, I mean, that's just one idea, but that is something we're always trying to answer, and it's probably why it's half of my job title.
Yeah, great. And I mean, it reminds me of, it seems like a lot of the social media posts that do the best are often of people's pet pictures, right? Because they're all very, very excited to share things that are near and dear to them, and I suppose the office setup is maybe a close second to family pets. So
it's a lot of work. So
yeah, it is. So okay, well, Jordan, Jason, thank you so much, and everybody at home, thank you for tuning in. We will have this recording sent out, so keep an eye on your inbox in a couple of hours, and we'll get this packaged up and sent out to you for reference as you're going through and planning your onboarding for this next year. And again, Jordan, Jason, thank you so much, and look forward to the next one where we're able to maybe enjoy some tunes.
Sure. All right.
Thank you.